Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Worm Whisperer channel. I have been worm farming for about 3.5 years now. Every time I bring up worm farming, people ask me, is worm farming worth it? Well, today friends, you are in luck because I am going to detail what I have learned about worms and my worm farm in the last 3 years. And stay tuned till the end because I am going to let you know if I think that worm farming is worth it. Why or why not? Is worm farming hard work? This is the great thing about worm farming. It doesn't have to be hard. Anyone can start worm farming with a light tote, some ripped up cardboard or newspaper, and some composting worms like red wigglers. You are ready to start putting in those food scraps to use for feeding your new worm farm. It only takes a bit of time to tend to your worm farm each week, but the rewards of worm farming can be great. You can easily manage the weight of your worm farm bins, and I have a great video that you can check out on my channel on just how to do that. What is worm compost used for? There is no better feeling than turning old food from your family's supper plate into rich, dark, good for your garden soil conditioner. The best part of all, the worms are doing all the work. All you need to do is help your little worm friends to have enough to eat, darkness, and a healthy environment, and that will get easier to do over time. You can use your vermicompost in your garden, house plants, vegetable containers, microgreens, and any other plants you are growing. Vermicompost is one of the best natural fertilizers on earth because it will not burn your plants. You can add it as much as you need, and it will have lasting effects for your plants for months after using it. Is it better to compost with or without worms? Both composting with worms, vermicomposting, and traditional composting without worms, thermophilic composting, can be an effective methods for turning organic waste into rich, nutrient-filled compost. Each has its own strength and suits different circumstances. Vermicomposting using worms, particularly red wigglers, to consume organic waste and transform it into worm castings, a nutrient-rich soil-like compost that is excellent for plants. Vermicomposting is relatively fast, odorless when done correctly, and can be done in a small space, such as inside a home or apartment, making it an excellent option for those with limited space or for urban dwellers. On the other hand, traditional composting relies on a mix of greens, nitrogen-rich, and brown composting-rich material, and bacteria decomposition over time to break down the organic waste. This process is slow and can take several months or even years, but it can handle a broader range of larger amounts of materials, including yard waste like grass clippings and leaves, which are not suitable for worm composting in larger amounts. The better method depends on your specific needs and circumstances. Vermicomposting may be more suitable if you have limited space, want to compost kitchen waste, and desire a faster composting process. Traditionally, composting may be better if you have a larger outdoor space, want to compost a larger, wider range of materials, or have time to wait for the compost to mature. Traditional composting also slows down considerably in the colder months of the year. However, with vermicomposting, this does not happen if the worm farm is indoors. You will be able to have access to compost all year round. Does it take longer to compost with or without worms? In ideal conditions, worms can consume and process organic waste quickly. The red wiggler worms, typically used in vermicomposting, can eat half their body weight in food each day, converting into worm castings, a rich, soil-like compost for your plants. Traditional composting, known as thermophilic composting, relies on microbial activity to break down organic matter. This process can take anywhere from a few months to over a year to fully decompose the organic materials, depending on several factors as carbon to nitrogen ratio, the size of the compost pile, aeration, and moisture level. However, it's worth noting that while vermicomposting may be quicker, it's best suited to composting food scraps and not designed to handle high volumes of yard waste. Traditional composting, on the other hand, can handle a wide variety of organic matter, including yard waste in larger quantities. What are the disadvantages of worm composting? While there are not really many disadvantages, in my 3 years of worm farming, I can think of 2. First is the time it takes to get started. It can take 3 to 4 months to get your first worm castings, worm poop, even if everything goes according to plan. I have a great video on how long it can take for this. This can be an advantage if you are in need of an amazing worm fertilizer right away for your plants. In this case, you may want to buy some worm castings if you need them right away for your plants. The second is harvesting. While there are ways to harvest worm castings quicker, the best way takes time to remove as many worms as you can, and even removing worm cocoons, otherwise known as worm eggs. To this day, I do a couple different ways, but the best way by far is picking the worms and cocoons out by hand so not to miss any of our wormy friends. The disadvantage of not doing it this way is losing the worm population over time. If you would like to keep a large, healthy population, removing the worms from the vermicomposting and adding them back to your worm farm will keep your population high and increase over time. If this isn't a concern to you, such as using your castings in the garden, then you can just remove the worm castings, worms and all. So, is worm farming worth it after 3.5 years? Yes, worm farming has been one of the best hobbies that I have learned over the last 3 years. Not only has it benefited the planet, taking food waste out of landfills, it has given me some amazing and free nutrients to add back to my garden, houseplants, and garden containers. No matter where you live, I would highly recommend learning how to start your own worm farm. It doesn't have to be big or a lot of work, and the benefits to any gardener will be awesome. Well, that's it for today's video, worm farming friends. I hope that you enjoyed the video and picked up a few tips along the way. Thanks for watching and happy worm farming, everyone, and I will see y'all next time.